When did you and LeBron start playing each other and start developing a friendship?
So LeBron is 1 year younger than me. So when I get to Oak Hill, Bron and them had beat Oak Hill the previous year. And I'm like, yo, I gotta play against him. Like, it's on the schedule, we gotta make it happen. I knew nothing, I ain't never seen him, none of that. Cause back then, he was the pamphlets, right?
Man, we was talking about
you know what I'm
this
saying?
before.
Like,
there's no internet, you didn't know who the motherfucker was till you seen him in the gym.
It was Bob Gibbons' report, you know what I'm saying? So whoever was in that box in the middle,
that's crazy.
whoever was in the box, that was the #1 player. So that's who you're going after at that point. So we get to Jersey, and we playing in a primetime shootout, and he coming in the hotel, and we coming in the hotel, and he like, yo, you mellow? Like, you know, you mellow? I'm like, yeah. And we sat on the steps. It was All-Star Weekend in Philly, too. So we sat on the steps for hours the night before the game. Like, I don't know nothing about you, dog. You don't know nothing about me. And we sat there for hours just kicking and just talking, man. And we clicked from that moment, you know what I'm saying? We just felt like we had similar backgrounds, you know what I'm saying? You single parent home, broken family, growing up in the hood, you know, that was a similar story. So we connected off of that before basketball.
That's rare you do that. That's rare you, especially with two players being at the top like that. Y'all dug into each other as people.
Absolutely.
Before basketball, so it's easy to understand now y'all relationship. Now.
Yeah, because I was looking for some type of relationship like that with somebody.
Yeah.
And he was looking for that as well. So we came in each other's lives at the right time. You know what I'm saying? Because we was both looking for, you know, that brotherhood, that brother that we can rely on and talk.
Melo and LeBron, teammates on the NBA stage. Just one of the many moves the Lakers made this week. In addition to Melo, the Lakers added Dwight, Trevor Ariza, as well as an injection of youth in Malik Monk. Everyone really liked that signing. Kendrick Nunn. And of course, LA picked up Russell Westbrook in a draft day trade last week. Among the additions for the Lakers are 6 players age 32 or older. That is actually a record for a single offseason. That's why we're all talking about it so much. And depending on how they fill out their roster, they could end up with the oldest team in NBA history. Mark, has adding Monk, Nunn, and bringing back Talen Horton-Tucker offset any of those age concerns that you might have had with the Lakers?
You know, outside of Marc Gasol, because I'm not sure what Mark's going to be doing after the Olympics, I'm not worried about this team. Age is nothing but a number. Look, I'm going to tell you, you showed those old Carmelo videos. He's in much better shape now than when he came to the Nuggets. I guarantee you that. So I think a lot of the guys that they added, you know, outside of Westbrook, I mean, how much are they going to be playing? Like, what, 10 to maybe 25 minutes a game? It's not like you're asking Melo to play 35 minutes a game anymore. So I don't know that their age will matter, but their experience certainly will matter. And then you got guys like Trevor and Russ coming home, and it's going to mean a lot to them to be playing in their backyard. I know there's all these memes and people are making fun of it. And I saw David Allen Greer had something hilarious about the age today. But age is nothing but a number for this team. I think they're going to be just fine. And the young guys are just some other pieces for the future.
Look, they traded 3 rotation players for Russell Westbrook. We don't know what's happening with Dennis Schroeder. Barely heard his name. And that Westbrook trade left them with very few tools to get players. They did the absolute best they could do with those tools. I'm actually shocked how many guys they got. They got some older veteran shooters, Wayne Ellington, Kent Bazemore. They got a two-way guy like Trevor Ariza who plays both ends pretty well. And then to your point, Rachel, the Malik Monk, Kendrick Nunn, retaining Talen Horton-Tucker. They got youth. Talen Horton-Tucker is a different kind of slasher player that they don't really have. Kendrick Nunn, 36% career from 3. Good secondary ball handler. The only negative, I think, is losing Alex Caruso because he's a solid player on both ends of the floor. That might have been a luxury tax thing. But to get those young guys, some veteran guys, I just think it's a home run given how few tools they had. My question now becomes, all these names, they look good, they shoot threes well. Who do you trust defensively to be on the floor late in a game in the conference finals, in the finals, against the very best offensive teams in the league? Is Lane Ellington going to be out there? Is Kent Bazemore going to be out there? Is THT going to be ready? Malik Monk has no experience in big NBA games. That, to me, is now the biggest question about this Lakers team. But you know what? Every team faces questions. Every team in the West faces questions. 2 key teams, the Clippers and the Nuggets, are missing star players for some or maybe all of the season. Everyone's got questions. these answers the Lakers came up with after the Russ trade are the best possible answers they could have come up with.
Well, I got to look at Frank Vogel's track record on that last question, though, too, about the defense, because if you look at his first season as head coach, a bunch of the guys that they had on the roster going into that season, let's just be honest, their defensive numbers were not good at all. A lot of guys had sort of fallen off, had defensive reputations, but if you looked at their numbers for the previous season or two, it really looked like a soft point in their strategy. And Frank Vogel got in there, and he incentivized guys to play better team defense. LeBron, frankly, played better defense than we had seen him play in years. Once he started working with Frank, Anthony Davis bought in defensively, and those two players set a tone that trickled down to the rest of the players. And we took a look here on the jump of the numbers in the season or two before these guys all got together. Their defensive numbers were really lacking, and they had turned into one of the best defenses in the league. And this past season, they held on to that #1 defense in the league mark for quite some time. So I'm going to extend them the credit this time that even if some of those guys have not had the strongest defensive numbers coming in, that team culture could still be there. We'll have to see if it happens. Now, of course, with all of the former Lakers becoming Lakers again, we've had other former Lakers. Nick Young tweeted out that he wanted, don't forget about me, he said, he wanted to come. And I do think this is, of course, more of a joke. But I will say, when you talk about being stunned, Zach, that the Lakers were able to fill around the edges this way, I think this is the LA advantage, right, Mark, that we hear some of the other teams complain about, that they have such a sort of carrot here of, well, you're going to come play for the Lakers, you're going to live in Los Angeles. That'll make up for some of the money, right?
And you're going to play with LeBron. I mean, that's the big thing. LeBron, it should get, if there's a GM of the year award that goes to Pelinka, LeBron should get some of that because I'm sure he's making calls, one. But he's the marquee draw, him and Anthony Davis. So he could get the elite at the end of their careers to take these minimum deals and join forces with them, guys that want to win a championship. And to the rich goes the spoils. I mean, the Golden State Warriors were getting guys like this. Brooklyn is getting guys, this way. So that's typical for the big market teams that are successful. But the Lakers putting on that uniform, it's really, really special. And to do it with LeBron and knowing that they have a strong chance to be a championship team, if you're going to take a pay cut, that's the place to do it.
And it's not just LeBron as a player. We all know LeBron, if you're an outside shooter, he's going to feed you good looks all the time. What does it mean for a young player like Malik Monk or Kendrick Nunn? It changes the entire perception of you when you're playing in the conference finals and the finals and you're making big shots. And these guys have an opportunity to do that. The whole world is watching. The whole league is watching. It's not a January game for the Charlotte Hornets. These guys have a chance and see a chance to change the way everybody feels about them, to give themselves an opportunity to play in moments they've never played in before. That's a big part of it, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they also, I would say, David Fizdale going there, you've had coaches, and I remember Brian Shaw saying this in the past, when you're assistant coach for the Lakers, it's better than, and Mike Brown has said this too, it's better than some head coach jobs in the league. So a guy like Fizdale coming there, it's certainly going to help him perhaps get a job next summer.
Hearing about this for a while. These guys met when they were in high school. They played a huge game against each other when they were opponents. And there's a great piece that Howard Beck, our friend at Sports Illustrated, wrote talking about them sitting in a stairwell in a hallway at the hotel the night before the game and just becoming friends, basically. Two guys who were in similar situations in high school who could know what that pressure was like to have the eyes of the whole country on them when they were so young. They have been incredibly close ever since. We have been waiting for the time when Carmelo Anthony and LeBron James play basketball together in the NBA, and we have it now. Carmelo Anthony is going to the LA Lakers. What do you make of that, Perk?
Reunited and it feels so good. I tried to tell people yesterday, Rachel, when producer Steve was saying we had to leave out, I couldn't have a chance to redeem myself when Zach Lowe and Ramona and Matt Barnes was disagreeing with me about the big three of the Lakers and the big three of the Nets and who was going to have the better impact. And all of a sudden, guess what? Like them old people used to tell me, my grandmother, boy, don't you touch that stove, it's hot. hot. And then all of a sudden I had to learn on my own not to go touch the stove because I went and touched it anyway. All of a sudden you got to go get the aloe vera plants because you got a burn mark on your hand because I told y'all so. Look, what Rob Pelinka did yesterday, all he did, Rachel, was set the temperature. He set the temperature. He set the temperature by going sign Trevor Ariza, Kent Bazemore, Wayne Ellington, and all of those guys. And now all of a sudden he had the cake ready to bake and he went put it in the oven by sealing the deal and going to get Carmelo Anthony. The mission is complete along with Dwight Howard. Book it. The Lakers are on their track, back on track. You go ahead, Zach. Say what you got to say. Go ahead. Do what you do.
I think you lost Zach at aloe vera, but continue.
Look, I have no idea what just happened, except I'm kind of hungry now, but I don't know what all that was. Look, this is
the truth. The man was speaking the truth. Continue.
This is a great story, and if I recall correctly, Carmelo made the playoffs his rookie year, and LeBron did not. I believe LeBron went to one of his playoff games. I mean, that's to go support him. So it's a beautiful story. And look, this is the kind of flyer the Lakers were going to have to take. They did not have any cap resources left to go. They're going to have to get guys that are chasing rings on the minimum. And Carmelo, to his credit, everyone said, all he wants to do is ISO and shoot twos. In Portland, he bought into a role as a spot-up shooter, shot the three well. That's the role he's going to have to play for the Lakers. But with all of these guys, whether it's Ellington, Bazemore, Ariza, Carmelo, with the exception of Ariza, I think the big question is going to be when push comes to shove, when you're in the conference finals, when you're in the second round of the playoffs, whatever it is, can you stay on the floor defensively? Do the Lakers, who have made their bones, all the sexy stuff, whatever, they have made their bones on defense. Yep. Have they hurt their defense too much in this all of this roster building? I think that's remains to be seen, but they are going to be a really interesting team.
Well, let me ask you a question. Woj also reporting Malik Monk to the Lakers. What do you think now as you look at the whole roster and where it sort of sits?
That's a great flyer for the Lakers. I haven't seen that. I haven't looked at my phone. Malik Monk had a nice bounce-back season last year. He can really shoot. He can play make as a secondary playmaker. That's when they lost Caruso, they needed more guys in their prime. And Malik Monk is still in his prime, and I think that's a great move by Rob Pelinka. It's a great flyer.
Kirk, what about you?
Rachel, you see when I love the move getting Monk. I think he's a hell of an addition. But you see why Zach is still trying to find holes and talking about defensive prowess and the defensive identity. They still have Anthony Davis. They still have Dwight Howard. They still have LeBron James. Look, when you have a veteran group like this group is built for a 7-game series because you have a veteran group that's going to buckle down. They know what it takes. You have a lot of championship experience. Look, Zach, stop trying to find holes and find things that's wrong with the Lakers instead of just saying, listen, I know they have an old squad, but they have a lot of talent on this team. They have a lot of depth, and they have fixed these holes that you're trying to talk about.
Depth, I don't know, but talent, yes.
And look, you now have in one place, I just want to put this all out there, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony. The list goes on and on. But talk about Showtime, which I think is going to be pretty incredible right across the street here. I'm personally happy we have another Orioles fan here in L.A. Our friend Kyle Goon from the Orange County Register is very excited, I know, about that as well. So, sorry, the Bay Area News.
My trump card was Phil Jackson was the president of the Knicks back then, and he had the 5th year, and he gave him the whole thing. But they really thought they had a chance at Carmelo Anthony all those years later. And you look at, I mean, that's my favorite expression on the show, I guess, is sliding doors.
Yeah, right.
But the sliding doors of Melo's career, of LeBron's career, I like this fit. I like that Melo sort of restarted his career, and he's become a really good three-point shooter. Career high 41% last year. That's what the Lakers need, and their cumulative ages are getting up. Like, he will be there and to make LeBron not feel old, I guess. Like, he's a little bit older than LeBron here. But look, I love the fact that they got Melo and Malik Monk, and Malik Monk on a minimum.
I was going to say, that is some wizardry, and also kind of speaks to a strategy we were talking about with Chris Bosh yesterday, that when he and LeBron and Dwayne Wade were down in Miami, they were able to be like, hey, come to Miami. Miami's fun. I know you won't be making that much money, but come and be with us. This is going to be a party. And it seems like they are starting to pick up a little bit of that momentum, too. What do you think, Zach?
Look, My big question about the Lakers now is the burden on defense for LeBron, who is still incredible defensively, and Anthony Davis, who we all know is a defensive player of the year candidate, is getting bigger and bigger and bigger because when you trawl the minimum bin for guys like this, they're older, they're liabilities defensively. But Melo, to Ramona's point, has bought into a spot-up shooting role and been really, really good at it, and he's going to fit well next to LeBron. And Malik Monk, look, he's not going to get the headlines here because this is Carmelo Anthony. This is a top 10 all-time scorer, first ballot Hall of Famer, LeBron's friend from when they were teenagers. It's a huge deal that they're playing together. Malik Monk on the minimum is an incredible get for Rob Pelinka and the Lakers. He had a great year last year, and he's not just a shooter. He can get them moving in transition. He's really fast. We know the Lakers like to play in transition, doubly so with Russ now. They're getting rebounds and rampaging up the court, and he's a really good secondary playmaker. If you're not really good, but he's getting there. If you kick it to Malik Monk on the weak side against the closeout, he can attack it, make the next pass. I think this is a great say. It's not going to get the headlines, but this is a great signing for the Lakers.
Brooke, I'm curious what you think the on-court fit with Melo, with LeBron, AD, and just all these new pieces, because it's great to make wholesale changes to your roster if you think you're improving it. But as you see on that graphic we just showed, Perk, it's a lot of guys going out and a lot of new guys coming in, and you're going to need to sort of reset your culture just by definition of having an almost completely new group, except for 2 or 3 key guys.
Yeah, and I understand that, Rachel, and I would be concerned if it was a young group, but we're talking about a group of veterans, right? And a lot of these guys have been to the promised land. A lot of these guys have won championships. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, you're looking at even Trevor Ariza. But when you look at Carmelo Anthony and you look at Russell Westbrook, these guys are starving to win a championship. That's the only thing left for them to complete their legacy is to win a ring. So sacrificing is not going to be difficult when it comes down to the Los Angeles Lakers. Look, we're watching Space Jam in real life right now. The Lakers have 5 Hall of Famers on their team. 5. Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, and Dwight Howard. And all those guys still could contribute at a very high level on the basketball court. Dwight Howard, to me, is going to be, again, the unsung hero in this situation, in my opinion, because his ability to still protect the basket. He knows how to play alongside Anthony Davis. He's still a lob threat at the basket, one of the most athletic bigs in the game today. So when you look at the other pieces, the shooting that they added around them, watch the hell out.
Yeah, I love this Dwight Howard sign. Re-signing? Yeah, I mean, they missed him last year. That was a calculated decision that they made to go from Marc Gasol in there and let Dwight go and trade JaVale. They missed it, and they missed it against Nikola Jokic. They missed it against DeAndre Ayton, who, by the way, is now a guy that you have to be thinking about how are you going to defend him. And so I think they just looked at what happened last year in the playoffs and said, we gotta get a defensive big who can take that in those matchups against Phoenix, against Utah with Rudy Gobert, and against Denver with Jokic. And I think that's Dwight. He was great in those.
And I think the follow-up question to that is, the more they play Dwight, the more they're going to face the problem of Russ, LeBron, AD, Dwight on the floor at the same time. Is just not a lot of shooting around LeBron, and so that will be interesting to see what it does to their half-court offense. But this team does like to play big. And as much as we want to see Anthony Davis the center, they're going to buy minutes with Dwight at the 5. It's just a matter of how they balance out the rotation because their shooting has taken a hit. And for 15 years, we've seen LeBron plus shooting is unstoppable.
Yeah. And look, here are some shooting numbers of guys last season. Caldwell Pope, not going to be there anymore. Caruso, not going to be there anymore. McLemore, not signed right now. Kyle Kuzma, not going to be there anymore. So you've got a lot of these guns no longer at your disposal. And the age thing is real, guys. They've got 6 signed players right now, 7 if you count Russ, right, who is on his way. 6 of those 7 are age 32 or older. A chunk of them are over 35. I mean, there is no question this is an older team. And I do think you're right, Perk. Much like we were talking in the last segment about the Olympics, you have a bunch of vet guys. You put them together for long enough, they do eventually figure it out. And the idea of sacrificing to win a championship, that is more real the older you get. It is real that you stop worrying as much about your individual numbers. It is real that you can feel like, well, I've kind of done everything else already. So for a guy like Melo that's looking for his first ring, that is very meaningful in terms of what you are willing to do for the team.